In the previous video, I talked about how to model sequence of values using linked list. In this video, we will see this in practice. This time, let us start by defining list first. Type list of A is either nil or cons of A. Nil is an interface representing end of list and is a type that has only one value. Cons, on the other hand, is wrapping a value of type A in head and points to the next list. All right. Next, let's define the constants and helper functions. The first one is nil value, which is of type list of never because it's not wrapping any value. And it's a shape of nil. We have a cons function, which is a generic function that receives head of type A and tail of type list of A. What it's going to return is another list. And if you're wondering why the name cons, apparently it's coming from a Lisp language, meaning constructing lists. So we are wrapping a value of type A in head, and we are pointing to the head of the next list. And let's add the tag as well, tag cons. All right. We need another function as well for differentiating between nil and cons. Let's call this one is nil. And this one is again a generic function which receives a list of type A, and it's returning a boolean telling us if the list is nil or not. More specifically, this is a type guard in TypeScript. So we are going to say XL is nil. How do we do this? We are saying if the tag is nil. Okay, let's define an actual list using our construct here. Const myList. Let's define a list of the sequence of values, sequence of numbers. So we need to define cons. It's going to wrap a value of 1, what this node is pointing to. What is the next list? We need to create another list that wraps a value of 2. What is a node 2 pointing to? Another list that points to a value of 3. And the node 3 is the end of our list. So it points to nil, which indicates our end of list. Let me add a little bit more space here. And let's console log this. Console log my list. If I save, as you see on the right, we are getting an unreadable format. We know this is a nested object, right? So let's fix this. Let's fix this using some JavaScript techniques. I'm going to do a JSON stringify, and I am stringify my list, no replacer, and use to indentation and format my list. And we are seeing something better, right? We are seeing this nested thing. We have 1 nesting a value of 2 and then nesting a value of 3. But this is a lot of overhead. Let's get rid of this. What we want to actually see is something like this. How can we do this? Let's create a function to return a string of this shape. I'm going to start defining the type for it. I'm going to call this showList. showList is going to be a generic function that receives a list of type A, and what it's going to return is a string representation of that list. Let's define the showList. and it's going to receive XS. And all right, let's define this. We are getting a list. First thing is to look and figure out if we are seeing a nil or actual node wrapping a value. So let's use our is nil, saying that if the list that we are seeing is nil, then what we want to show, an empty string. There is nothing to show. Otherwise, if we have a node that wraps a value, if it's a cons, then, let's show the head, xs.head. And we want to show a comma. And what do we want to show next is the string representation of the tail, which is a linked list. So we can recursively call, again, showList over xs.tail, right? Let's try this. Console log, showList, and let's pass the myList to this. If I save, we are seeing 1, 2, 3, but we are seeing a comma at the end. Let's get rid of that. So in order to do that, when we are seeing a head, we need to look ahead one step forward and see if the next one is nil. If it's nil, then let's not show this. Let me fix it like this. You know what? Let's get rid of the rest of this. So show the head and then check to see if the tail is nil. If it's nil, then show nothing. Otherwise, try to call the show list with the tail. And let's wrap this in parentheses. So if the tail is nil, show empty string. Otherwise, show list. And we need something else too. We want to say show comma as well. All right. Cool. If I save, we are seeing 1, 2, 3. All right. Thank you for watching this video. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.